SuperCoaches. That's right. Strap in. Welcome to the SuperCoach AFL podcast, your in and out guide to the greatest game on earth. AFL SuperCoach. Love this. 40 years back. We've got round 8 in the bag. Round 9 to preview. I'm your host, Jaymz Clements. You can see me on the AFL Today show as well. And joining me today, 3 of the greatest SuperCoach brains on the planet. And me. Also, I'll tell you what, we've got the guru right here, Al Paton. What's going on, Al?
G'day, James. Pretty crazy weekend, and I'm sure you'll introduce our other panellists in a second, but it's not Max. The whole Brody Grundy thing, I think it just got too much. He would have had to retract his retraction, and he's just decided to take a week off.
He's currently, I think, getting a Brody Grundy haircut is our patch. It was part of his punishment. It's how it goes. But in his place, we have, fresh from the mean streets of Geelong, Dan Paton. What's going on, Dan?
Straight off the V-line, straight here. So, good to be here, guys, off the bench again.
Nice. We're also going to bring on the Phantom later to chat a lot of Bubble Boy talk because it's getting pretty sparse. So we need all the info we can get. But before we jump in, remember to sign up to SuperCoach Plus for all your live scores, your break-evens, all your projections, all the good stuff. We're going to dive into that today as well. And for all the other insights you need, you can read Al, Dan, everybody else in between on codesports.com.au. You can also follow them on X, Al_Superfooty and Dan Batten _. It's the trickiest one out of all of them. Let's do it. Round 8 wrap. Heroes and villains. I'm going to just fly through mine because I had an absolute Barry Crocker shocker because my villains are they're everywhere. The villain really might actually just be me because I was that bad this week. 1920 was where I landed. I could not believe it.
Best 18 this week?
The Roaring
It was
20s.
best 18, right? Jeez. Because my villains are just everywhere. I'll just really quickly dive in. Caleb Strong is my hero. Simply awesome. Brought him in, part of the Brody Grundy trade. There you go, the Grundy trade. My villain is everybody else. Tom Green, Connor Rozee, the Shees, Luke Jackson, even the underperforming types. Trark, who else? Noah Anderson, my beloved Noah Anderson. Where were you, Noah? Apparently where the rest of that Gold Coast team were. Nowhere to be found last night. Flip side, Brisbane. Jeez, you could have just rolled out the entire Brisbane midfield this week and smashed it. But anyway, Al, heroes and villains, what was your score?
I scored in the end 22.59, which turned out to be a good score. I was really nervous waiting for lockout to open, which was at about nearly midnight last night, given the late Q clash. And it was just such a roller coaster weekend that I really wasn't sure where I was going to land. In the end, it started all the way back on Thursday where I made a classic SuperCoach mistake, or Friday as it was. I was really umming and ahhing over a couple of trades, and I decided, look, I'm just going to sit on them for a day. I've been stressing out about this. It doesn't really affect me because these guys aren't playing tonight. And then I realised, oh, hang on a second, Zac Williams is in this game, and he was part of my whole convoluted Grundy trade. So I had to watch him, and it turns out he was flying at halftime, then he got subbed off, and then he went backwards, and I was just doing my head in. But in the end, really, it just came down to the fact that I had Luke Ryan in my team. So 197 points, absolutely insane. Just probably needed one more kick in or something to get to the 200 against the Tigers at the MCG. So that really saved my round. So he's clearly the hero. The villain I'm going to give to Matt Rao. You mentioned the Q clash and Brisbane's midfield. I think I tweeted that maybe we were all a bit too scared of Brisbane's round 2 bye, and we didn't really hardly if it's anyone picked, Lockie Neal, Zorko, Dunkley. They're all in like 3-4% of teams, and those 3 guys all scored 160 points. It was just massive, and Gold Coast could not get near it. They were all over Rao in particular, Anderson as well. Every time they got near the ball, Dunkley was on Rao particularly, and he got his hands on it a bit at some of those stoppages, and then all of a sudden there was like 4 guys on top of him. So they do play the Kangaroos this week at Gold Coast, so expecting a bounce back from, I think, that whole Suns midfield.
Yeah, Matty Rowell, I just don't know if he likes the taste of the grass of the Gabba. Might be something.
He was getting plenty of it. He was at the bottom just
eating a lot of grass. What are you doing, Matty Rowell? Dan, heroes, villains.
I think my hero was probably Caleb Sarong. Like Al, had a bit of a trade dilemma during the week, whether to trade in Sarong, Rowell, Merritt, Dawson, all these different options, so little time. Passed on Dawson. That was a nervous watch in the second half, but obviously in the first half he didn't go so well. Merritt, I was like, okay, yes, I've dodged a bullet here with Merritt, can get him cheap. I think he was on about 17 halfway through the second quarter. It goes on to kick 3 goals in the space of a quarter. But obviously Caleb Sarong went out and absolutely brained it, which was good. A few clangers for him, but just won so much of the footy. My villain is probably putting Tom Green as the vice captain. That wasn't a great move, obviously subbed out of the game. Not much he can do for being the villain. Maybe I'm just the villain for putting him vice captain, but Max Gawn as well. I had a bit of a captaincy. I think I saw Tim and Al saying, okay, Max Gawn, he's a safe option. He was surely going to absolutely destroy Reece Stanley. And I knew, I think the last couple of games he hadn't had the best record against Stanley. And so I went, okay, I'm going to take the C off Sarong, because also it's bad juju, right? Putting the C on a player that you're bringing in, and put the C on a Gawn. And yeah, just thought I just absolutely ruined it. It cost me 60, 70 points. And obviously that last quarter happened. So all's well that ends well in the end. I got 2-2, 4-1, 12 places away from the top 1,000. So that's why I'm on the show, right? Because
I think literally there's about 20 points between us, isn't there, overall? Yeah. That's about 200 or 300 spots in the ranking. So it's very tight.
And we've spoken about this a bit. It is a bit SuperCoach groupthink. If you're in a group chat with people, you end up just making the same trades as they do, thinking the same way. That's why it's better to just be, like a bit of a guy who thinks of himself like a Skodfather, for instance, who's just willing to do what others may not.
Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. Yeah, and also me, I'm basically on the same as you guys, but like about 100,000 back. Caleb Sarong. I mean, that in terms of heroes, I think that was probably really, really fun to bring him in this week and to see him go up. And you're like, I don't know if he's going to dip in price again. Just one of those dudes, right? Where it's like, it's not going to get that low 600s.
Yeah, when we get into the trade talk, and I think it's probably going to be a theme, ongoing throughout the year, it's just that it's a tricky question of when do you try and pick up some value if someone's cheap and you think you can get a good player in for a good price, and when do you just think, look, some guys you just have to pay up because they're not really going to get much cheaper. And, Zach Merritt's probably in that bracket.
Yeah.
Luke Ryan, if you don't have him now, it's going to be very hard to afford. So, it's a tricky dilemma, and I think you're not always going to be able to get the top price guys because we just don't have that much cash, but sometimes with certain players, and I certainly feel safer having Sarong in my midfield than, say, a Dawson or someone like that. I just think I'd lock him away for top 3 or 4 mid for the whole season, and maybe worry about what to do with the money for some other guys.
Nice one. Speaking about worrying about money for other guys, Jews. SuperCoach news, injuries and suspensions. We've got some injury problems. I mentioned him before, the villain, my beloved Tom Green. Breaking my heart with his total of 5 points before leaving with his ankle injury, but might still play next week. We don't know yet. He might be up. What do we do here, Al? What do we do?
Well, I definitely wouldn't be trading him. I think looked it up, and he's in about 80% of teams of coaches in the top 10%, maybe about 60% overall. So a lot of people dealing with this situation. I guess it comes down to your bench cover if he doesn't get up this week. Hopefully, maybe just misses the one. So given how well he's scoring, and we think he's going to be in that top bracket of scorers for the whole season, so you don't want to be getting rid of him. But I don't have a lot to bring on, although Dan, your man Jai Clark did the right thing and came back into the Cats side and actually scored all right on the weekend. I think he
ruined
made
my loophole as well.
About $500 or something like that. But he might be the one to cover for me for 1 week. But so Green obviously hit a lot of people, and it always seems to happen in the first 2 minutes of the game, doesn't it? Connor Rozee, I know another one of your favourites.
This is a brutal one for me. So the Ken Hinkley was actually my villain for playing him.
Yeah.
And look, everyone sort of went into that game fingers crossed, I think, including Ken Hinkley, including Connor Rozee, and including every SuperCoacher out there with him in their team, right? And so at least 1 week on the sidelines for Rozee, it looks like. And you wonder if they just go, hang on a second, maybe we should even be a little bit more cautious, but we'll find out.
Yeah, surely they'll play it safe now. I mean, 521K, I was just looking up. He hasn't gone through the floor in terms of his price, so you can still get something for that. But obviously pretty frustrating. Zac Williams, I mentioned, so he's been subbed out 2 times in his last 3 games with different injury problems. So, I think just move on from Zac. He might play this week too, but obviously you just can't trust him. Hopefully he gets up, but he's an obvious trade out. And then Elliot Yeo is the other one that, look, if you picked him at the start of the year and someone told you back then that he would play 7 games, average nearly 120, and then he'd get injured, you'd probably take that because given his injury history, people who only just traded him in, which a few thousand did in the last week or two, that's a bit harder to cop. But the injury's finally caught up with him. I'm not sure how serious that is. I think it was a groin that he's was nursing there for, set out basically the last quarter of that game, maybe get some scans this week. So keep an eye on it. I guess if he's playing, you could try and hang on to him, but at least he's got a bit of value. You could pretty much swap him for any defender you want.
Yeah, that's it. And I think as you said, 7 games, you would have definitely taken that. Nat Fyfe, he's a similar case, right? He was the sub. He ruined a lot of people's plans, considering it was not a lot you can do sometimes Sunday at 12 o'clock when that announcement's made for Fife. So I think for Fife, you'd think he's going to keep playing. So you probably, there is a case to hold. But, if it is more significant, then, there's plenty of good options to go to.
It's like the one saving grace is that he's like actually got a pretty nice, tasty price point. Outside of that, injuries just suck. All right, the biggest talking points post round 8. I have one question for you, Al. Are you saying that Clayton Oliver is back? I might have brought this up a couple of weeks ago. We were on this pretty early. And then he actually, repaid the faith a hint. Just a hint last week. Finally tons up again. Looking pretty good. Had 31 touches. Feeling good about things. What do you think? Is he back?
Well, I asked a Demons fan in the building today, and he didn't think he played that well, but he scored 141 SuperCoach points, so the stats say differently. Clearly his best score for the season. He's obviously had very interrupted preseason and then a bit of injury issues during the year with was it a thumb that he was nursing for a few weeks there. But he's looked a bit more like the old Clayton Oliver the last 2 or 3 weeks, and that was obviously a massive score. And he's finally bottomed out in price. He actually dropped over $200,000 from his starting price, which is insane. You almost never see that. Put 10 grand back onto his price tag on the weekend. Now he's got to break even. I'd have to check what it is. Down around, under the, what we would expect him to get this week. What does the SuperCoach site tell me? Oh, it's not working for me. There we go. 48. 48. Projected score 91, but break even at 48 this week. I think he would definitely get that. So, he's projected to go up about 20 grand, so you could potentially wait and just make sure. But, at that price, is it too good to pass up and you just get on the Clayton Oliver train now, Dan?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think this year, we found that the forward and defence, you can sort of get away with some of these guys that are a bit cheaper for value options, like an Elliot Yeo, for instance. Harry Mackay, even, in my case, jumping on for $390K. But I'm less reluctant to do it in the midfield when there's so many good options. Like, Rao, who probably might be under 600K in a couple of weeks. Zach Merritt's still about 620K. Caleb Sarong's still affordable, 630. And even going Jordan Dawson over them, you might be losing 20 points a week. Who knows what's going to happen with Clayton Oliver? Obviously, his best is great. But I'd want to see at least another week, maybe another one after that. I'm happy to pay $520K for Oliver, let's be honest. That's still great value. But at the same time, there's so many good mids. We've been blessed a bit with cash gen, I think, this year with a lot of good rookies. I think if you can pay up, it is worth paying up because you can get an extra 10, 15 points a week.
He does have the game against Carlton this week. He has scored 128, 126 and 140 points against them in the last 3. And what we saw Carlton sort of deliver last week is, plenty of touches for the Pies midfield. We obviously saw Dacos go absolutely ham. Helps that he kicked the game-winning goal. Doesn't help my Carlton fandom, but still. And then they have West Coast after that as well. So 121 points the last time he played them. So, I don't know, a little bit of Clary in the air, just saying. Number 2, we're looking at the best Tom Green, Elliot Yeo replacements. What are we looking at here, Al? I don't feel the need to replace Tom Green right now. I think I'm going to ride that one out. He is a warrior, is my beloved Tom Green. Bit of bench cover, I think I'll roll with him. But if you do have to bite the bullet, who do you reckon?
Yeah, I thought I'd just throw that in. We're not 100% sure. We might get some bad injury news. And just to throw a few midfielders into the mix, and Oliver obviously is the value option there. I know a guy you've been on for a couple of weeks, Darcy Parish, presents pretty good value. He's hit some form as well. But the defence does throw up a few interesting names, and that's certainly an area where I need to look at because I've been running with 2 or 3 rookies on the field there, and it's starting to, I don't think I'm going to be able to get away with that for too much longer. So someone like a Tom Stewart's just so reliable, but I don't know, there's just something this year he's just not quite hitting the heights that we know he can do, but he's still safe for probably 100, 110 average, and he's come right down in price, about 100 grand off his starting value. Then you've got someone like Bailey Dale, who we talked about last week, who's just continued that amazing form in the back line for the Bulldogs. He's gone up to 532K, but a bit like Oliver, if you're convinced that he's going to be scoring this well for the rest of the year, that's still a pretty good price. Or do you go all the way up for, in my case, Nick Martin I don't have. It's really frustrating watching him just go so well every week, and I think he's really settled in that role in defence now for the Bombers, and they've got a great fixture coming up, so I feel like that could really hurt me if I don't have him. Or we mentioned him off the top, Dan, if you don't have Luke Ryan, you just have to pull out everything you can to get him in. He's 644K. SuperCoach Plus projects he'll be over 700 in a week or two. I think he's got St Kilda, maybe not this week, but the week after.
Yeah.
We know what scores they're giving up to defenders. So it could be pretty scary not having him in there. So, yeah, it's that dilemma that I mentioned. Do you try and pick off value, or do you just try and get the guy who we think will probably be the number one scorer in his position this year?
Yeah, I think Luke Ryan's probably the one you have to get, but we've been burnt before, right? All it takes is one bad score in the cycle, and then they just go plummeting. But I think with the matchup against St Kilda coming up, and he just scores points for fun. He's clocked the CD champion data system, right? He's just, take a kick in, chip kick, gets it back. They're always looking to switch to him as well. I don't think he's necessarily the best kick in the comp either. He just knows how to get those 40-meter kicks. In terms of other options, I don't know. I still feel like a Sarong, if you can get up to a guy like that, if Green is out, then he is a pretty solid option. Just a buyer beware with Darcy Parish. He has been tagged the last couple of times against the Giants, so that's just a bit of a watch there on him. They could go to Merritt, who's been quite good, very consistent, kicked 3 last week. But Parish, I think that's just a bit of a watch there on him against the Giants this week.
Actually, it just occurred to me. So James Jordan tagged. No. So that's ignore that one. We'll come back. We'll come back
Good
to that
job,
later.
Al. Oh no, there you go. There are 3 other names though out there in the midfield that
He's
I'm looking at, sort of similar sort of price points to Tom Green, right? Petrarca, he's sitting there at 551, which is awesome. He's had a pretty quiet stretch, obviously, but he's still an absolute weapon. So Josh Kelly is the other one. 1.6% of owners, I think, in terms of all of SuperCoach, has been popping up kicking goals left, right, and centre. Tom Green goes out. Josh Kelly is right there. And the other one is Werrell. Had a quiet one, 95. So he actually dropped in price again.
He won the medal, though.
And exactly, right? He was incredible in that game, randomly, just popping up, just delivering goals left, right, and centre again. 575. So I kind of feel like I like those 3 names just about more than anything else, that sort of around that mid-ish premium price, right? They all sound pretty nice to me. Just saying.
There was a grain. I was onto something here. James Jordan plays Freo this week, so could go to Luke
Ryan. Wow.
Tough scenes. All right, last one. Should we get Colby McKercher back? What do you reckon?
We'll probably get some Dan advice on this as the rookie expert, because he was one of the first picked rookies at the start of the year, and he was great for the first 3 or 4 weeks playing off halfback. Gave some really nice scores. Then Clarko decided to throw him into the midfield, really just destroyed his scoring. Then he ended up in hospital after a clash with Jeremy Cameron, and his price went down, and a lot of us, I think about 70,000 coaches traded him out, including me. But now he's settled back in that halfback role. Scored hundreds the last 2 weeks, was massive on the weekend against St Kilda. As we know, they do give up points to defenders. But is he someone we could consider at around the 300K mark? If he's going to stay in that role, I think that's a great price. Just the worry is, does Clarko leave him there? And also probably he's benefited from Harry Sheasel moving up the ground, playing more midfield on the weekend, which I'm not a super fan of, given obviously we've got him in our defence as well. But how confident are we of what Clarko's doing with all these moving puzzle pieces?
Yeah, I don't think we can be super confident because, the Sheasel experiment might not work. He moves him back. But I think you look at their lineup at the moment. They got Zach Fisher, who took the most kick-ins. I think he's probably the most expendable, rather than McKercher, who's your future. You pick 2 that you use so much draft capital on. I had him earmarked to be the top rookie this year, and that was off half-back. Won footy for fun last year at under 18 level, and was tracking to be that number 1 rookie in the first few rounds, but obviously had the movement to the midfield, had an injury-affected game as well in there, which sees him still at about 300K. I think after back-to-back tons, you can definitely look at it, especially a team like yours, Al, that might have, fielding 2 rookies on the field currently.
3.
You can, 3 at the moment. Gee, wow. You can get him in, and then if you've got a boost or anything like that, you can fix up other areas as well. So I really like it as a play. I think he can easily average 90, 95 in that role, like similar to Nick Dacos. The ball's going to be down there so much. We've seen it already, how much footy that Harry Sheasel has been getting, and even Colby McKercher in the last 2 weeks. So, I think it's definitely a good place, one I'm considering, but it's probably more favourable if you have a boost and you can do a bit more. You can maybe upgrade someone as well as sidewaysing a closey, say, to McKercher.
in my case, I don't quite have the cash to. I reckon that would be the play to do to get a closer someone up to him. I would probably have to go down from like a Matt Roberts, which you make $100,000, but is that worth it? I feel like their scoring potential is sort of similar, although Roberts obviously has a pretty high break even after a lower score on the weekend.
I mean, if you can also get an Oliver in that same play, that might be the way to go. But yeah, I guess I'm in the position where I've got one spot to fill in my defence, and I'm thinking that's probably Tom Stewart. But as you said, there is can he really go 110 when there's Max Holmes back there winning plenty of the footy? Zach Guthrie is playing more of an intercepting role as well. There's less reliance on him back there, and there's more runners, more playmakers. So, yeah, it could be a sort of thing where you trade in Colby McKercher now as your D6. He becomes maybe a D7, M9 sort of situation where, you can just loop him on and off the bench.
There you go. 9,000?
Yeah.
Ooh, that is a
good value.
That's a half grade to like you up or down, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What are we doing here? All right, we're going to get stuck right into way more of that Bubble Boy talk right now with the Phantom. All right, the moment we've all been waiting for, I'll tell you that much. Calling in from parts unknown once more. He is, I don't know, more of a guru than the guru himself, Al. Who knows? Maybe we should fight them. It is the Phantom. What's going on, Phantom?
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me again, Guru. I will take that big week for SuperCoach, but sadly not a big talking week about the rookies.
It's a tough one, right? We always bring you in to talk Bubble Boys, the other players that we should be keeping an eye on for a bit of cash generation. This week feels a little bit light on the ground there, Al.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's one clear standout of the guys who played their second game on the weekend. Darcy Jones at GWS. Small forward is always a bit of a risk, especially when we looked at that Giants team and they had Toby Green to come back in, Brent Daniels to come back in, but all those guys played on the weekend and Jones was good again. So is he the obvious one to downgrade to this week?
Well, we know Dan Batten gets a lot of things wrong, but spreads some misinformation out there in the SuperCoach community. Harley Reid for one, but Dan was telling me 3 years ago that Darcy Jones could play. I reckon he probably took a percentage of his first match payment as well, given how much he's talked him up in the past. But he's looked very good. We spoke about him last week on the show, what he did forward of centre for the Giants. Adam Kingsley spoke him up after his debut in Canberra. Good again on the weekend, 14 touches, 70 SuperCoach points, got himself on the score sheet again. So, and regardless of injuries now, I think he looks like he's in their best team. He adds something different across half forward, you think. Tom Green, obviously the injury, there's a bit of a worry to shuffle things on field. So you think, even if Green doesn't play though, I think Darcy Jones is the man at that price. He's the one this week.
Nice one. What are the other names we're looking at this week? We've got Riley Hardiman. We've got Cooper Simpson. Who else are you sort of buying here at this point, Phantom?
There's not a lot. We spoke about Cooper Simpson last week. We called him the sidestep. He was good over there against the Eagles, but barely could get his hands on the footy against the Tigers at the MCG. Cross him off the list. Hardiman didn't do a lot either, minus 20 break even, but still probably not enough. We might have to go a little bit more expensive, as we've talked about in the SuperCoach community. There's other ways to make money this year. Colby McKercher, who I know has been raised on the show, 309K. If you weren't convinced last year, he's gone back-to-back big scores, negative 61 break even for him, the third lowest in the comp. So that's a way to make money. In the past 2 weeks for Colby McKercher, he's had 62 disposals and just one clanger. So that's very Harry Sheasel-like numbers, his teammate there, who was sort of holding him out of this role early in the season, which we heard about over summer. So he looks locked in there, and I like it as a way to make money.
There is also Harvey Harrison, Al. Are we worried about his role? What do we think?
Oh, yeah, just a classic small forward, I think. Looking at the pies, though, Phantom, do you think, there was a heap of guys who played their first game on the weekend. Lockie Sullivan started as the sub for Collingwood, but looked pretty good when he came on. Seeing a few people going early on him, is that something you could consider at just the 102K?
I'm tempted. All the SuperCoaches tempted out there. 102K, we love a bargain basement player in SuperCoach. Game high, 8 score involvements and 74 Supercoach points for Sullivan in just 43% time on ground. So an impressive debut footy-wise, an impressive debut Supercoach-wise, a mature ager. We love them. Lockie Schultz been banned from the Pies, and I think Tom Mitchell's been in hospital over the weekend too. So could he get another game? It's still a bit of a risk going early on him, given we know Jordan De Goey is going to come back into that side too. But he's probably going to get another chance this weekend, hopefully not as a sub. And then, again, if he can impress and have an influence, which he really did in that Pies midfield, then maybe Fly sticks with him.
So it's an interesting question because there is a bunch of other one-gamers, Al, where we've got like Bruce Reveal, Dan Curtin, Cal Shadir, Jack Hayes, ? Watch out. Is it worth going early on any of them?
Well, I think if you're going to go early on one, for me, Sullivan is the one. But then we probably are going to be looking, especially if you do that and buy Sullivan this week, we need someone probably next week to keep the trades rolling. Who did you like out of all these other guys? Maybe we'll just get to Hayes in a second. He's slightly different category at 228K. Some of these, cheaper guys, although Dan Curtin a little bit more expensive. But Bruce was getting people excited up in Brisbane. A few injuries there. Maybe that could help him stay in the team.
Breville, yes, he might stay in there. It was pretty good. Hard to miss out there on the field with that haircut. Did some nice things. And you're right, Al probably stays in that side for a little while now, given the injuries to the line. So I'll watch him closely this week. I don't think he can go early on a player we didn't know a lot about coming into last week. So Sullivan's a little bit different, as you mentioned. The price, mature ages, scored well, been solid in the state league. We've sort of tracked him at times. So Dan Curtin is the other one you mentioned. Debuted in the showdown, ended up with 43 Supercoach points in just over half a game. Was subbed out late and nursed through his debut by the Crows. So at that slightly elevated price, you'd want to see a full game and you'd want to see a considerable score to go on Dan Curtin, even after 2 games. So definitely both in the watch basket this week. I agree with you. Sullivan, probably the only one you can go on this week, and just wait and see, because those other 2 aren't even sure things on the bubble.
It's a tricky one as well, right? So we look at Darcy Jones, 23% basically of trades so far have been Darcy Jones, which feels pretty interesting. There's like just that sheer trustability, I guess, we want to lean into, right? And it feels like not too many of these other one gamers are going to get there. The other one that keeps getting thrown at me is, I believe, Turner on the...
Dan Turner.
Dan
Demons.
Turner, that's right, on the Demons. He's played he had a massive game 1. It was a bit quiet again last week. And this is the quandary that we sort of find ourselves in, right? Like, how do we keep this cash generation going, Phantom?
Yes, it's a good question. A bit quiet, bit of an understatement there, I think. Tough game at the MCG against the Cats. I wouldn't be going near that this week. I think it's more those mid-range guys, those your Colby McKercher's. We spoke about your Jack Hayes, which will be discussed further. You've got to think about different ways to make money. Maybe you're sort of downgrading. Given more trades this year, maybe do a few more things with your sideways moves and your premiums to make money. Bailey Dale, a money train from last week, has seemed to work out. So there's different ways to make money. And I think as teams upgrade quicker in Supercoach this year with 40 trades, maybe we can take a few more risks with those rookies, given they're probably only going to be on the bench. So there becomes a time where if you're set up okay elsewhere, you've got enough on the bench, maybe you are just culling for anyone that's getting a game just for the money. If they don't hold their spot, you might still be okay.
And what did you think of Jack Hayes against the Kangas on Saturday? We loved him in Supercoach 2 years ago. I think he scored 2 tons in his first 4 games and then unfortunately got injured, and it's taken him pretty much all this time to get back, and scored another ton on the weekend, 228K. I mean, to me, he seems like he's a great fit for that side. He can help out Rowan Marshall in the ruck. He can help out Max King in the forward line. Obviously brings a lot of energy. The teammates, are really getting around him when he kicked those goals on the weekend. I know North is struggling a little bit, but is he someone you could have your eye on in the forward line?
I hope so. You mentioned what he did a couple of years ago. Hard to forget that round 1. I had an emergency on him, took him in. So we all love Jack Hayes. Obviously dominated over here in the Sandford before being picked up by the Saints. Cross and did exactly what he did on that debut, taking big overhead marks, creating a contest around the ground for the Saints. And I agree, he helps what they've got already. And I'm hoping Ross sticks with him, having a look this weekend. But these are the types of guys who are going to be trading to make money, especially next week when there might not be much available on the rookie front. So, Tom Power down to Jack Hayes is still pocketing 150, 160K in that move, and that might be enough, to trade up and get a value premium on the way down.
Nice one. Anything else you want to hit on there with the Phantom?
Oh, look, I mean, the only other player that I came across in my research was another Saint, Angus Hastie, who's actually played 4 games and he's dropped in value from 117,000 to 112. He's been the sub in 3 of those games. But if you were planning some kind of convoluted trade that meant you had to get a defender for less than 117,000, is that somewhere you could even consider?
You could probably just cut that question out, I reckon, James. We probably don't even need to go there. It's got some backstory there with Al and Angus Hastie. But sometimes we get desperate in SuperCoach Al, but surely you can't go there. You need to see something more in his second game. 4 disposals. It wasn't the sub either. So you said 3 sub-affected game, 4 disposals in a full game before being subbed out. So I'd look hard for another way.
Fair. Back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I feel like you've just been told, Al. There you go. All right, thanks a lot there, Phantom. No doubt we'll be cashing in. I think Darcy Jones is at the top of the list, obviously, for everybody at this point, I think. And away we go. Either way, we'll send me back to parts unknown. Thank you once more, Phantom.
Good luck, guys.
All right, a big thanks to the Phantom. Amazing gear as per usual, Al, I'll tell you that much. All right, the quick fire round, though. This is the fun one. Trade or hold. I'm going to throw it to both of you. Here's a name, Nat Fife. Dan, trade or hold?
I think hold. He's going to keep playing. He's had his week off, so hold.
Al?
Yeah, hold. I think that was just a management thing. Probably tells you a bit about how the Dockers think Richmond's travelling, that they can just sit him on the bench until halfway through the last quarter. But, yeah, he should be back and fresh and ready to go.
Oh, the disrespect. Massimo D'Ambrosio, trade or hold, Dan?
I think it's got to be a trade now, back-to-back 40s. Obviously one of those sub-affected, but yeah, I think you can cut and run now.
Al?
Yeah, I wasn't planning on it, but I ended up trading him last week because I missed the Zac Williams thing and it worked out okay in the end. He didn't score that well, so I think, yeah, he's good to go.
And I believe you've also already traded or holded Zac Williams. What do we reckon?
Well, I did holded him, but now he's traded.
He's traded it.
And I traded him, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I did too. He's traded it. Matt Roberts, trade or hold, Al?
He's got a high break even. I don't think he's a must trade. He probably will lose a little bit of cash this week, but I still like him as a decent scoring option. If you've got to play a rookie on field, he's not a bad one. But on the other hand, he's got a bit of money attached to him. So if he's the one who helps you get to a primo, then don't have any issues with getting rid of him now. It's
a tricky one. 107 break even. They're playing at Freo this week, right? It's just, that is a tough one. Dan, what do you reckon? Trade or hold?
Oh, I'm toying with. I think if I get McKercher, I'll hold him so I can have the best possible rookie. Getting your worst rookies off before you get him off. But at the same time, if it gets you to a big dog, I think trade. Yep. So
nice one. Speaking of big dogs, Sam Darcy, trade or hold, Al?
Again, I think not a must trade because I think his break even's 42 now after a bit of a down game on the weekend. But the Bulldogs do play Richmond this weekend. We don't want to just turn into a Richmond bashing show here.
I mean, we could.
Especially with
2 Richmond fans.
Dan and me here. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he played a lot better this weekend. Yeah. But at the same token, he's obviously pretty obvious one. A lot of people trading him down to a Darcy Jones in the forward line to free up some cash to do something with. And I don't have any issue with that.
He does feel like the obvious forward downgrade, doesn't he? Dan, trade or hold?
Yeah, I'm going to tie myself in knots with this one as well. There's definitely merit in keeping him because he could kick a bag against the Tigers, but I would have thought he'd kick a bag against Hawthorn as well, depleted defence. So, I think that, I'm going to say if you're unsure, probably trade.
Nice. All right, this is a bit of a name game here. Closey versus Graham. 2 Gold Coast early rookie price dudes. Who do you want to play on field if you have to? I have to. I've had Closey on. I think I keep getting it wrong each week. It's awesome. I'm stoked with how this is working for me. Closey ripped up 43 this week. Yep. Will Graham 59. Who do we reckon here, Al?
Yeah, I mean, because they're playing the same team, obviously they're always playing the same game. There's no way to, loophole them or choose the best score or anything like that. You just have to close your eyes and take a punt, and it's almost impossible to get it right. But I think Graham actually has gone past close years just as a more reliable option. He had, I think, 8 tackles again on the weekend. So if you're getting that many tackles each game, at least it gives you a solid. You're probably not really going to go below 50, whereas Close, he obviously started in a blaze of glory with a couple of tons, but he hasn't been as good the last couple of weeks, and he was in massive trouble. He was in the negatives nearly at halftime last night. So he sort of did well to recover and get 43 in the end.
And they play North this week as well, right? Gold Coast. So
I'd almost be going Closey in this one.
Yeah, actually, that's
because especially if it's it's at TIO. Though.
It is a TIO.
So yeah, I mean, obviously it's easier opposition, so Closey has more opportunity to show the attacking flair he did early on the season. But at the same time, TIO not conducive for a winger, outside player, probably more conducive for Graham, who's laying 8 tackles, could have an octopus lay 10 tentacles on the weekend. But yeah, I'd be going Graham, I think.
interesting. All right, is Dylan Moore a top 6 forward? I'm desperate to know because I might trade him in this week. What do we think, Al?
I wish we thought of this a couple of weeks ago because he's been fantastic and gone up in price about $100,000 in that time. 2 really good scores, 140 yesterday against the Dogs. I think there's because I've always been a bit worried about his mix. I think if they got him into more centre bounces, he'd be a Supercoach primo for sure, but he's sort of too good as a forward, so they've never really done that. But he's got a nice little mix there at the moment where he just gets sort of 20-25% CBAs, also impacts forward, and obviously helped them win the game yesterday when he went into the middle a little bit. So I think they'll persist with that. So I'm going to say yes. We've really struggled to find anyone we'd be happy to pick in the forward line this year, but if you can afford him at 520 and he's still going up, break even 21 this weekend, I think he's a good buy.
Yeah, I've had him in Supercoach draft, and been loving what he's produced. We came close to chucking him on the waivers a few weeks ago before his hot run, but obviously held on. But yeah, I'd be looking at him seriously. I mean, in this current climate, I think we had an article up on the site last week about who would be the top forwards, and Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow were 3 and 4. So that sort of shows where we're at in Supercoach. So I think Dylan Moore is a definite option.
So they play Utahs, I think, this week, right? That Saints game.
Saints,
it's a really strange mix, I think, for Dylan Moore because he has had those 3 weeks, but he's had some absolute shocking scores in between. So it is a big roll of the dice because we've just gone, I think, 140, 136, 116. He's also had 56, 59, and 44.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the forward line this year, isn't it?
Nice one. Bevo or Clarko, Al? Are we just mixing them up at this point? Because Clarko just keeps throwing spanners into every Supercoach's, mix here, right? It's just like wrenching the thing. You're like, oh, come on, Clarko. We expect it from Bevo.
He's nearly he's gone past Bevo, I think. I mean, Bevo's got his own issues there at the Dogs, obviously, to deal with at the moment. But Clarko, when it comes to Supercoach relevant players, throwing Harry Sheezel around, I mean, I can see why for his development and for North's development, it sort of makes sense to get him on the ball. On the weekend, he played entirely as a midfielder forward, didn't play in defence at all, and as a result, had his worst Supercoach score of the year. So that's certainly something we want to keep an eye on. But that's helped McKercher at the same time. So swings and roundabouts. Then Tommy Powell was in the midfield, then he was out of the midfield, then he was back in sort of half and half on the weekend. So it's just, it's really hard to get a read on these guys, which makes it really difficult. But, we talked about McKercher. I mean, are we worried about Sheezel?
I'm not that worried. I mean, he's still, if you wanted to cash him in now, it'd take a brave Supercoach to do it. But I think some even cashed in Tom Green earlier in the season, and then they'd be absolutely laughing. But yeah, I'd still be, holding on to Sheezel, especially with other problems in our team. But I think it's definitely Bevo who's, I think Clarko's still got a way to go to get to Bevo levels.
The original.
I'm just still eyeballing Bailey Dale, just waiting for him to get Bevo'd again. Breaks your heart. Last one. Boost or no boost? I'm going to use a boost this week because I've still got 2 in the bag. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Dan?
I Tim Mitchelled it and used all my boosts in about 5 weeks, so I cannot boost.
Nice. Al?
I have 1 boost left, and I think I would like to use it, but I'm not sure if I can. We were talking about this off air. I think if you can manage to get 1 downgrade, say, a classic Sam Darcy down to Darcy Jones, and use the other 2 trades to do 2 upgrades, maybe especially if you can get, say, a Clayton Oliver who's a bit cheaper, and Bailey Dale in defence or something like that, a nice combo, guys who are a little bit of value, I would give that a huge tick, but I don't have the cash quite to do that. So is it worth using a 3rd trade in that circumstance? I'll be weighing that up this week. I've come up with some pretty weird trade plans that could maybe make it work, but might be safer to just say no at the moment.
Nice. I am just going to, I'm just going to wear out my fingers, like just with trades this week. I'm just like reversing, just going back in, 3 trades, 2 trades, 1 trade. Who knows what's going to happen? It's going to be chaos. Speaking of which, captain's call, bit of chaos this week as well. We do start off with the very easy VC loophole action with Max Gorn playing on Thursday night, if that is your want. My vibe going to this, though, is that probably after Dacos' showing last week, I'll probably go Gorn into Dacos. Al, what are you feeling?
Yeah, Dacos against the Eagles, very tempting. That game's at Marvel, which is don't know if that
trickier.
makes it a little bit more unpredictable. I actually like be hard to pass on Max. I think he scored about 200 against Carlton in the preseason.
Yeah.
But Mark Pittner's come into that side and he's going okay, so maybe they sort of try and double
And the
team
dual
him.
ruck as well with Tom Paton, yeah.
So I actually quite like Zach Butters against the Cats maybe on Saturday. He's just been scoring 125 every week without sort of too much of a fuss. So Cats midfield maybe is an option there to give up some points. And then I think Marcus Bontempelli, again, Richmond bashing against the Tigers at the G on Sunday. Very hard to go past that. He scored 153 last time he played Richmond. Richmond gives up the most points to midfielders in the competition. They also give up the most points to defenders. So if you've got a Bailey Dale, he could be a shout as well. But the one that I hadn't probably thought about, but I looked up the projections on SuperCoach Plus, Sam Flanders has the highest projected score this weekend, 141. And when you look at Gold Coast against North, there's maybe some tasty options there.
Definitely. Yeah, I was just about to say, Al, you as a Matt Rowell owner, 65 last week. I think he'll be raring to go against North, and I think he's scored 120 plus in his last 3 outings against the Roos. Tug Miller is another one who's a bit of a point of difference, but it would be a brave Supercoacher to pick him over Marcus Bontempelli against the Tigers. I think he's probably the standout pick, and Gorn VC is probably your safest bet there as well.
Yeah, so Stupid Sexy Flanders is projected 149. That's the highest. But Gorn is 141 against the Blues. Feel pretty good about that. Dacos is 138. It's an annoying question, but I'll still take Gorn into Dacos, I think, this week. Just play it safe.
Dacos is, I mean, like at the start of the year, it was every week it was someone and Dacos.
Yep.
And we sort of gone away from that, but really we've seen he's back in form as you saw on Friday night. And pretty handy if you had to see all the VC.
To be honest, if they need him to kick another game-winning goal against West Coast, that'd be more funny than just about anything else. So here we are. All right, the head-to-head matchup. It's a game of names week in, week out. Last week, we basically tied here, Al, because you were Matt Rao Freeze 4, and I was the Grundy Freeze against. Both ended up on 1. So that had a lot going for it.
But as it turned out, Rao won 1 free and gave 2 away.
Yeah.
And Gorn only gave 1 away, and he actually won 4 on his own. So he could nearly claim that on some sort of comeback.
I think it's just the umpires have just been listening to Patch and just like finally went, yeah, that's all right. We'll get him going. This is great.
Just Grundy at the SCG. We just have to watch that fixture because every time he plays there, he goes absolutely massive.
But what we're doing this week is I am yet to trade Bailey Dale into my team. You, however, do have him here, Al. So the over-under against Richmond, you've put it at 140. I'm happily taking the under just because, who knows, just if Bevo is in the equation, I'm just going to go under because he just might get subbed and who knows what's going to happen. But
yes, no, that's all very fair points. But I just think the way the Tigers are playing, and they just gave Luke Ryan absolutely zero respect yesterday. Didn't pay any attention to him whatsoever. Heaps of kickouts, and he just took plenty of marks, intercepts, everything. And there was a great stat, actually, Robbo had this in his tackle column, that Richmond had 38 inside 50s for the game, and Luke Ryan had 39 disposals playing in defence. So I'm not quite sure how that even makes sense, but if he can do that, I think Bailey Dale is on for an absolutely massive score. So I'll take the overs.
Wouldn't be giantly surprised, but I'm still going to take my under. Monday moves. Before we finish up, what's your Monday trade? Very briefly, as I said, I've got a boost, so I'm going to Darcy Jones, Darcy Parish, Dylan Moore. I could just go the 3 Darcys. Would have been good. No.
Are we trading out Sam Darcy?
Get rid of Sean Darcy as well. Actually, the Sam Darcy is out. It's all Darcy's here. But the double upgrade for Parish and Moore, because I've got the boost there, I'll send out Massimo, Roberts, and Sam Darcy. So I don't really want to sacrifice Darcy, but the double upgrade, I'll probably go back and forth on who the double upgrade is, but it's definitely on the cards. Al, Monday moves?
I think those, Sam Darcy and Roberts, we talked about them, but they're guys that you could definitely hold, but they're the ones who have made enough money that they're now worth trading. And once I've gotten rid of those guys, it's a bit of a drop down to the next rung. So, might have to wait a couple of weeks for a Sam Closey or someone like that to make enough money to be worth trading. So I think that's why a lot of people will be moving them on. I can go just pretty straightforward 2 trades, 1 down, 1 up. Trade a Darcy out to a Darcy Jones, and then I can afford a Bailey Dale in defence. I can't quite get Nick Martin, which I would really love to get him in, especially with Essendon's upcoming fixture. I can do that if I get Lockie Sullivan a week early in the midfield. So I'll probably do one of those 2, or have been playing around with a few other options of using that boost. And maybe McKercher comes into the equation there, where we sort of talk about a 1.5 upgrades.
A half grade.
Interesting.
Get him in the back line as well. But is that worth a final boost? Got a few days to figure that one out.
Probably not. Dan!
Yeah, it startled me there. Wow. I'm toying with getting Colby McKercher. It means I wouldn't get a premium this week. I guess, as you said, the half grade. 3 in the mix are Flanders, Rowell and Merritt. Rowell obviously has a high break even, but I can see him going 150 and hitting that break even against the Roos. He also has Geelong next week, another team that struggles at the contest. So, yeah, it could be 2 massive scores for Rowell up at TIO. Been eyeing that off for a while. So I think it will probably be it will be one of those 3. At the moment, I'm going to go Rowell as just a bit of a point difference. I don't think many people will be bringing him in off her 65. So I'm backing him in right now. But I guess Monday trades are always a bit wacky.
That's the best part about the Monday trade, you see, Dan. It's the best part. The Monday trades, it's rage trades. It's just, I got to get this guy out of my team. I got to get this dude in. Rowell has had 131, 124, and 125 against North in his last 3. The 125 in 2022 came up against the Roos at TIO. Not bad.
Yeah, you think that the conditions up there were just absolutely suited down to the ground. Lots of tackles, lots of stoppages. Yeah.
Good grass up there. All right.
Exactly.
That's it for the Round 9 preview. Remember to dig into all things SuperCoach across all the socials. They're doing a great job at the moment. It's everywhere. It's looking great. We've got some of the awesome teams out there as well that we're showcasing. Doing a great job. Across Twitter, YouTube, what is it, X, IG, TikTok, all the good stuff right there. You can check out the Phantom's Lair as well with the Phantom. You can rate the show on Spotify, all that good stuff. Sign up to SuperCoach Plus, and for all the insights you need, smash code SPORTS. You can also get around the AFL Today show for all the fun stuff that we do, day in, day out, basically. There's a lot going on there. But again, thanks to Dan for jumping off the train and saying g'day.
No, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Hopefully I can last more than a week, but usually it's one in, one out, bit of Bevo style for
Nice.
me.
And thank you, Al. You're doing a great job as usual.
Oh, thank you, James. And yeah, you mentioned the socials. It just reminded me, I was going to mention that the guy who won the weekly prize this week for the best score jumped in rank from 9,500th to 366 overall. So
Wow, pretty tight.
you
at the
can
top.
do it. Just,
See, there's
have a
hope for
good
me
week.
yet. I love this. I'm coming back. We're on board, baby. Let's go. We're on the James train. Anyway, this has been a good week. It's been a fun week. Thank you to Phantom also for calling in earlier. I've been Jaymz Clements. Happy super coaching.